Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show. We've got a lot to get to today. The homestand against the Los Angeles teams ends 3-3. Zach, what do you have to say about that?
I think about as expected, right? The Dodgers are better than the Angels. That's my takeaway.
Yes, not all things are created equal. That, Shane Bieber update, the road trip to New York, and fans complaining about bullshit. I got to talk about this. This is all, yeah. I'm very annoyed about it. We'll get to all of this coming up on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show. Crazy, Zach. I mentioned it. I kind of went on a rant about this on the big show. One day it must have been after the second Dodger game. So it was probably Wednesday. Listen, you want to shit on baseball. I get it. There's things to be pissed off if you're a baseball fan, especially of a team like Cleveland that doesn't spend like the other teams spend. I completely understand the frustration. I get it. We've all lived it, especially in recent years. Since COVID, it's been much worse for the Guardians. But every time they lose to the Dodgers or the Yankees, everybody gets apoplectic as if there's no way we can beat these teams. It's impossible to beat. Now, listen, I don't know that anybody can beat the Dodgers in the playoffs. We'll see. To me, it's baseball. They were on the ropes against the Padres. I think it was the Padres last year. Mm-hmm. I believe they were losing that series 3-2, or I don't remember exactly, but they were on the ropes. I know they're better this year in theory. I personally, while I think they have the best team on paper, pretty obviously, I don't think it's that much better than a few other teams that they couldn't lose. I think it's ridiculous. But this idea that the Guardians just can't compete in any way with the Yankees and Dodgers it's crap. And what fans do in that case is they always blame baseball, which is fair to some degree. But it's all, again, there are inequities in the game. We all understand that. But some of that blame has to go to the Cleveland Guardians, not only ownership, who we like to kick around, deservedly so when it comes to money, but also to the front office, because we've lauded them for years, deservedly so. They're almost given nobody ever talks about firing anybody in the front office. But in recent years, they have not done a particularly good job. I think it's hard to argue against that. So what say you to all that I just threw out there?
This is a 30-minute show, give or take, right?
Well, we can go on if you want.
Yeah, I think this is it's a nuanced conversation, and it's complex because part of me thinks it depends on the time of the year. I get tired of talking about payroll and inequities and market sizes in the summer. We do that all winter. It's a shame because, I mean, this like what we're talking about here is why there's probably going to be a lockout in a year and a half. And, I can only ever point to the NFL and point to the fact that Kansas City is like the model franchise in the NFL because they landed Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And that is not a big market.
Nope.
It's so I don't know. I think baseball has done a lot of harm to itself, not being forward thinking enough about markets and TV and money distribution and stuff over the years. And it's gotten us to this point where the Dodgers have like 7 aces on their team. So even if 4 of them are on the injured list, like it might not matter come October. But the way they've tried to balance that and even the playing field is by allowing more teams into the postseason and by keeping the first round a best of 5. So it's a little more random and things like that. It's not perfect. It's nowhere near perfect. But it does make it so that when we get to the season and we get to these games, like when I'm evaluating what happened this week, like I don't want to talk about payroll. It's exhausting. And I think that to the second and the bigger point you were making, I think nobody's asking Cleveland, no one's asking Pittsburgh no one's asking the Pirates to spend $250 million to build a team around Paul Skeens. No one's expecting, the homeless Rays and Athletics to have $300 million payrolls. No one's expecting Cleveland to be in that stratosphere. But I think when you are on the cusp, when you have something, when you make the ALCS, that's when you should go outside of your comfort zone. No one's asking you if you're in a rebuild and you're winning 70 games to spend your way out of it. And that's not going to solve everything. But if there's a move or two you can make to capitalize on something you've already built, I think that's the key. I think they did that in 2016 with Andrew Miller and then Edwin Encarnacion. And even they spent $7 million on Boone Logan because it was the one weakness they had on that roster going into 2017 was the second lefty. And that showed you just how desperately they wanted to win and how they felt like they were positioned to do that. And it looked like they were. They won 102 games and they collapsed against the Yankees. And then they got scared. I think they kind of saw their own shadow and pulled back a little bit. And they never really did that again and still haven't. And so I think a few things. One, the way this is all set up and the way this all works makes it so that some people are just never baseball fans anymore. And I get it. It's completely tuned you off. In the NFL, we never talk about payroll. We never talk about market size. We don't talk about any of this stuff. And it doesn't matter. It's a pretty even playing field. And it basically just depends on who can develop quarterbacks. The NBA is somewhere in the middle, but we're going to see Pacers Thunder, right? And everyone's going to talk about NBA ratings and it's going to be this storyline. And in the end, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I think baseball's got to figure out a way so that there isn't this existential dread. Even last year, the Guardians are having an awesome season, wire to wire, basically first place, but there's the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets standing there at the end. And is there any way you can get past them? I don't that can't be the way baseball fans are programmed to think. We have to be able to just analyze a series in a week and not think about that stuff. And so on one hand, it's the team's fault that we are having this conversation. On the other hand, it is absolutely the league's fault too, that we feel like we have to have this conversation. Yeah. And I just hope one day we can get to a point where can we just talk about Gavin Williams facing the Yankees or whatever?
And we will. And I think we've done a great job on this show. We almost never talk about payroll during the season outside of hey, I'd like them to make a trade for this guy. Well, will they do it? I mean, we don't do that much. I was just so frustrated by this woe is me sometimes that it just created this frustration that is the reason I wanted to talk about it. And I mean, you want baseball to be in a place where we're not discussing payroll, where Pirates fans don't have to read articles from John Heyman about the best trades for Paul Skeens in his first full season in the big leagues. Those things suck. They suck for the game. They suck for the fan bases. I know Pittsburgh is our rival, but I think in a way, if you're a Guardians fan, I think you should feel just I don't like the Pirates. I have no connection to Pittsburgh. I don't want the Pirates to lose Paul Skeens. Mm-hmm. It's bad for the sport. These guys should be able to stay in their markets for at least a second. That's the thing with the NBA is most of the guys, at least, and I guess it's changing a little bit, but most of the guys usually stay for at least that second contract. But we were taught for how many years did we talk Lindor's going to be gone? Lindor's going to be gone. And that's frustrating. Now we did it a little with Jose and then he signed and it's nice with Jose to not have to worry that he's going to be gone.
Yeah. I mean, if he didn't take a huge discount and basically force the team into it. I mean, he woke up on the last day of spring training, called his agent and was like, get this done.
Yeah.
Then he's a Padre or Blue Jay. I don't know. I think that these conversations have just killed the sport. It has become such a local, regionalized game.
Yeah.
And it just creates this perception
of haves and
I don't.
have-nots.
Yeah, and like Davids and Goliaths, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't have to be that way, or it shouldn't
No.
have to be that way. And I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what the CBA, the new one, is going to look like. How ugly this battle is going to be in a year and a half. But this has gone on too long. Like
It's enough.
like when they traded, when Manny Ramirez left and then Tomey left and then they traded CeCe and they traded Cliff Lee, like that drove a lot of fans away.
Absolutely.
That period of time. And I think, the joke forever has been like a kid comes up like a prized prospect. I mean, I heard it last year, like people saying, well, Travis Bazzana, number 1 overall pick, but it's only, a few years till he'll be a Yankee. And it's like, that's just such an unhealthy way for a sport to survive.
And like with the Browns, I mean, they suck. And so they haven't had a lot of players that you'd want to have around forever, but you don't really have that thought, right? I know he wanted to go, but in the end, Myles Garrett's probably going to play his whole career here. Joel Bitonio, I know that maybe not sexy player, but he's going to play his whole career here. Joe Thomas.
Yeah, you're not talking about like, oh, he's just going to leave and sign with the Jets.
Right.
They have the most money.
Doesn't happen. No. And that's great. And we need to have that needs to switch. And the worst thing, the biggest mistake baseball has made here, and I think it was, I don't think anybody really saw this coming because I don't think they saw players doing this, but the Dodgers being able to defer so much money, especially Ohtani, but really all their contracts recently, that's got to be gone. That at the very least, even if they're able to defer it to some degree, there's got to be a limit on how much, and it's got to still affect your salary cap or luxury tax immediately.
It was pretty funny when the Dodgers won the first two. First of all, Ohtani homers on the first pitch of the series, and it's like, okay, that was predictable. Then, but Wednesday afternoon, it's Colby Allard, this scrawny little lefty was a first-round pick, top 100 prospect, throws 90 miles an hour. And he's going up against Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and Teoscar Hernandez. And it's like
Will Smith.
Yeah, I mean, it is the haves and have-nots. And of course, but this is to your point.
Yeah.
Colby Allard did pretty well, and the Guardians won that day. So sometimes you can't predict baseball, but it's unfortunate that you're relying first and foremost on like random variance to beat the Dodgers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If baseball is lucky that it's the least predictable of the big three sports, because if it were more like if the better team won more often, it'd be a way bigger problem than it already is. The only reason it's people haven't complained as much is because before last year, you could have said Dodgers hadn't won a World Series in forever. They won the COVID. Did they win the COVID World Series?
They won the COVID year, yeah.
All right.
Against the big payroll Rays.
Right, yeah. And the Yankees have won, once in the last 25 years. And so the Mets haven't won since 86. So some of obviously the Cubs have only won once. So the big market teams, but now it seems like the last couple of years, it's becoming a bigger differential. Now, I don't believe the Yankees are I think maybe the 5 best teams in baseball are in the National League, but.
Well, and that's the other thing. And you look at the standings right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dodgers are 36-23. So they're a few games ahead of the Guardians.
Right.
Only the Yankees and Tigers are ahead of the Guardians in the American League. Like it's again, like it's everybody and then the Rockies. Like there's not one team that's just running away that's going to win 110 games. There's not, it's pretty balanced. And I, injuries play a role in this. And I think the Dodgers always build a team that has a ton of depth so that once you get to the games that matter most, they're in good shape. But, for like a regular season, like there's no series that you go into and you're like, well, the Guardians they can't compete with this team.
No. Honestly, there's only been that I can think of. There's been very few series, even in the playoffs, in my lifetime. And I remember going back to 79, 80, something like that, where I was like, oh, this team's got no shot. I remember when the Padres played the Yankees in the World Series. I was like, the Padres got no chance. Same thing with the Padres in '84 when they played the Cubs. I know it's before your time. Not the Cubs. They beat the Cubs in the NLCS when they played the Tigers. That '84 Tiger team was a juggernaut. I didn't think the Padres had any chance, but that's very rare. Like, I know the Guardians since 17, the Yankees have had their number. We all know that. I don't believe that. Like, if the Guardians were playing the Yankees in a playoff series, and let's say everybody's healthy, Bieber's back, blah blah blah, would the Yankees be the favorite in that series? Certainly. I don't see all hands on deck of guys that are hurt, including guys that are hurt now, but are likely to be back by August, September, including Bieber. I don't see a massive gap between the Yankees and the Guardians. The Yankees have a better lineup, obviously, but their lineup is flawed. And the Guardians, their pitching can compete with the Yankees, no doubt. Now, the Yankees starting pitching has been, and that's been, I picked the Yankees not to make the playoffs, and it looks like I'm going to be wrong on that. But the reason why is their pitching has been way better. Their starting pitching, especially, has been way better than I thought it would be. You knew Fried would be good. I didn't think he'd be this good. And the rest of their staff has really pitched pretty well. This Will Warren guy's been great. Rodon's kind of bounced back. He's been fantastic. So anyway, I don't mean to go on in the Yankees because I hate
their pitching coach, Matt Blake, comes from which organization?
Mm-hmm. The Guardians.
Cleveland's.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a couple things there. One, I think the way to sum up this conversation is just, you're talking about like forecasting a playoff series or whatever, or even this week, you got 3 at Yankee Stadium.
That's right.
I think it's just the Guardians have less margin for error. Like they need more things to go right.
Yes.
But you mentioned a Bieber return, and I think we're starting to see some things with the lineup and the bullpen where like you can chart a path back to where this team was last year.
Yeah.
Like I think the Guardians can be formidable. Like they're going to hang around. They're not going anywhere. And like if Bieber comes back and looks like, 75% of himself, like that's an enormous lift. So, I think especially in this balanced American League, like they're gonna be hanging around, and I think them getting that series finale against the Dodgers is a reminder of like this team is they just don't die. They hang around.
That's right.
In games, in series, and when you want to write them off, they're usually there to make you look foolish.
Speaking of writing off, I might look foolish about somebody on the Guardians. Plus, on the opposite end, I'm going to pat myself on the back with something in terms of the Guardians. But first, I want to talk about Epicor, folks. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build and practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the all-stars are the hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier. Seeing your whole supply chain is easier. Managing logistics is easier. Responding to price changes is easier. From small businesses with big dreams to growing empires with global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier finds the lane. Discover your success at easierwithepicor.com. That's easierwithepicor.com. All right, let's talk about FanDuel as well there, Zach. What does FanDuel have for us today? We'll get to it in just a second. I don't know. I left you hanging. You got it?
I was muted like a rookie. And I just want to tell you, though, the NBA finals are upon us. They're here. It's June. Sadly, the Cavs are not participating, but we're sure to see highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, maybe a surprise MVP of the finals, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Also, little secret side note here, if you're ever, I don't know, in a different state like Michigan, perhaps, and you're sitting at Slo's Barbecue after a series finale against the Tigers, and you've got 10 minutes to kill while waiting for your pulled pork and your fries and delicious apple barbecue sauce, maybe you pull up the FanDuel casino and kill a little time doing that. But you can figure out, which players in the finals are going to show up in the biggest moments, and how could tracking their trends help you build your next bet. Plenty of things you can do. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com/UCSS and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Thank you, Zach. We will get to the fan comments in just a little bit. All right, I'm going to chide myself and credit myself for some takes I had a few weeks ago. Well, one was more than a few weeks ago. But I was completely ready to write off Carlos Santana. I know he's a traditional slow starter, but at 40 years old, I was like, I'm done. Let's get some guys, let's get Kafis in here. Obviously, they're not calling Kafis up anytime soon. Or at least that's the way it seems, unless there's significant, Manzardo gets hurt or Santana, maybe we'll see it. But anyway, Santana has been much better in May, obviously. And so kudos to him. I mean, maybe it was just a slow start. We'll see. And I was saying to cut him 3-4 weeks ago, and obviously he's played very well since then. So kudos to Carlos for really turning it around. I guess I should have expected it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I don't blame us, though. I understand he gets off to a slow start every year, but one of these years he's going to get off to a slow start, and it's just going to stay slow. He's 39.
Yes.
But he proved us wrong. We were wrong. That's fine. He's looked awesome. They've needed it.
Yeah.
He still can draw walks. He drew 19 walks in May, and that's while also hitting well. So it's a much needed switch hitting bat. And also, like, Manzardo is slumped. So it's helped to have that in the middle of the order. But go ahead. Pat yourself on the back now.
Well, the other
I also want to say, I think there's still room for Kafis. Even if I
hope you're right.
Because Nolan Jones has heated up and Santana's obviously playing well.
Yeah.
And you don't want to run away from Manzardo, and Fry's back. He's going to be in the mix. But I don't know that Angel Martinez needs to play 7 times a week in center field, or even, Daniel Schneemann doesn't necessarily need to start 7 days a week, or Gabe Arias doesn't need to start 7 days a week. So there's room to move guys around, which would open up maybe a spot in center field. You could slide Nolan Jones over once or twice a week and play Kafis and right if you want. So I think there's space for him if they wanted him. I think it's a defense thing. I think they want him to be completely comfortable in right field before they call him up, because I don't think there's going to be a spot for him at first base this year with all those guys.
I think you're right, and I hope you're right, but I think his most likely path is if Santana or Manzardo go on the IL.
Yeah.
On the other hand, everybody except for you and I was completely panicking about Emmanuel Clase. My friend Jake Crawford said he should go to the minors. Everybody was calling him to lose his closer job. I don't know that was crazy unreasonable, but and it's fair that people were frustrated because he was bad in the playoffs last year, but outside of that, the guy has been the best closer in baseball consistently for the last 3-4 years. And he has completely righted the ship. I mean, since that bad start, he pitched great, and then he had that one bad appearance again in Pittsburgh, and since then, I don't think he's given up a run. And I don't know if it feels like he's completely 100% back to where we thought. I don't think he can get back in our minds to where we thought of him last year because of the playoffs. But right now, he's looking like one of the best closers in baseball again, if not the best.
3 outings this week. He went 1-2-3 on 10 pitches, 1-2-3 on 10 pitches, and 1-2-3 on 10 pitches.
That's efficient with a capital E right there. I mean,
and consistent. And that's when he's been at his best. He's efficient. It takes 45 seconds to finish the 9th inning. And, it's finding that balance between, he's always going to be in the strike zone, but you don't want to be too much in the strike zone, if that makes sense. You want to hit the corners. You don't want to hit the middle of the plate. And I think for him, it's that balance between being aggressive and being smart about where you're locating your pitches. So, he's even like Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, those guys have not quite been as sharp as they were last year, but that would be the least of my concerns if I'm the Guardians. Like that, the back end of the bullpen will be fine. and it's just a matter of straightening out the other 22 guys on the roster.
Gavin Williams, the up and down show continues. Obviously, he struggled. We were on Tuesday last week, and he had struggled on Monday against the Dodgers, a really poor start there. Yesterday against the Angels, he pitches great. 1 hit, 2 walks, 2 unearned runs, and 6 Ks, 6 2/3. It's good to see him get into the 7th. I think he finished with 103 pitches, I believe. And obviously the Angels lineup is not the Dodgers lineup. Nobody's is, but
it's not bad though.
No, it's not bad. It's not bad. No, it's not like we're talking about the Rockies or the White Sox. I mean, it's a middle of the road lineup. So
yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah,
I asked him, like, what are you thinking when you're walking off the field? The fans gave him a great ovation.
Yeah.
And he said he was mad at himself because he wanted to get at least 7 innings. He threw 103 pitches, and he's, that efficiency has been an issue all year, and it's usually driven by his walk total, which is one of the highest in the league. And he walked 2 yesterday, but everything was working. The curveball looked great.
Yep.
Threw a ton of cutters, which is a pitch that he's been workshopping for over a year now. He's got this new sinker he's toyed around with. I think he's still he's got great stuff. He throws hard. He can throw a ton of pitches, and he's just trying to figure out what works. I think it's more about the scouting reports and how to attack hitters, because he's got great stuff. It's just being in the strike zone consistently and being unpredictable. I mean, that's Ohtani takes him deep on the first pitch, and it's like, why are you throwing a fastball? We've seen this 3 times now this season.
I know. I don't understand.
And so I think for him, it's all there. We've seen this, and you see him when he's at his best, he looks like
an ace.
That ace, yeah. And so you just got to see it more.
And that's why, you look at his ERA, it's 3.79. That's a pretty good ERA, but I think fairly, and I think he would appreciate this. We have such high expectations for him that I look at a 3.79 ERA as a big disappointment. I wouldn't look at that with Luis Ortiz or Ben Lively or Slade Ciccone. Any of those guys pitched with 3.79 ERA. I'm like, well done. But I expect him to have an ERA. Honestly, maybe it's too unfair, but I expect him to have an ERA under 3.
What's funny? His rookie year, he comes up, he and Tanner Bivey, and it looked like, all right, here's your next 2 aces for the next decade. And he had a 3.29 ERA that year in 16 starts. And I remember talking not just to him, but to some coaches, to some front office people, and everyone said the same thing, where it's hard to critique him because the numbers look so good.
Yeah.
But that year, he struggled with so many things. I remember he'd touch 97, 98 in the first inning or two, and he couldn't sustain that. By the end of his outing, he'd be throwing 91, 92. And so they're like, we know it's in there. You can throw really hard. You got to do that. And the curveball and the slider had really good metrics, but the way he was using them, they could be even more effective. And you see it, he averaged 1 strikeout per inning that year, and now he's averaging more than a strikeout per inning. That's improved. Yeah. The walk rate could have been better, and that's gone the wrong direction. There were things, even when his ERA was 3.29, that they pointed to, and they're like, yeah, but and that shows you his potential. That shows you this is a dude with ace caliber stuff. You just have to unlock it. Well, it's 2 years later. They're still working on that, and you've seen signs of it. It's just, can you do it consistently?
Interesting. I was looking at his. I want to see if there was anything interesting in his home road splits, and there really isn't. But when I looked that up, there was something interesting in his versus lefty versus righty, at least this year. I don't remember from years past, but his OPS, the OPS against him, against right-handed batters, is 787. Against left-handed batters, it's 632. I mean, lefties are batting 165 against him, which is, that's wild.
Yeah, I think that explains the trying to figure out what pitches to throw to which guys. Because you've got, you're typically going to throw the sinker, you throw it to a righty so it dives down and in. The cutter, his cutter is about even lefties against righties, but he's throwing the curveball way more against lefties. So, and that's been a super effective pitch. So he's just trying to figure out what makes sense. But I think the main takeaway is if he can just attack the strike zone. I mean, he was dropping curveballs in for strikes yesterday.
Yeah.
Like we haven't really seen that from him. So whatever he had yesterday that felt good, he needs to just bottle that up.
Yes, indeed. And overall, 4 of his last 5 starts have been pretty good. The Guardians won 4-2 yesterday. They won 7-5 on Saturday. It was a great come from behind win. They were down 4-2, 5-3. They scored 1 in the 6th and 3 in the 7th. Carlos Santana, we talked about it, hit a home run in that one. Quan homered. Ramirez homered in that game.
Nolan Jones, Little League home run.
That's right. which is funny because you so obviously rarely see that in the major leagues. But should we count it? Like in Little League, I guess we I don't count it. When I do Game Changer, I don't know. You probably don't know what Game Changer is.
Oh, I know about Game Changer. Oh, yeah.
You aren't old enough for that yet.
It's what every MLB coach uses.
Oh, they do use that? Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that. That's funny. I would have thought they had like a special app in the majors that's better than that. Because Game Changer has its flaws. But anyway, I don't score it. I'd never, if they get a Little League home run, I don't give them a home run. That's it. I'll give you one base. Like I give you a single if it's borderline, but the rest of the bases, we're getting errors. We're throwing errors in there.
Well, you got to be more lenient with Little League errors anyway, right?
Yes, 100%. If a kid reaches base, I almost always scored a hit. But if he reaches base and then they start throwing it away, I'm not giving. A home run's got to be, to me, a home. At our Little League, it's got to be over the fence because you can't hit it inside the park. I mean, unless a kid just fell or something, Our field's not that big that you could really legitimately hit an inside the park home run. So it's got to be over the fence. So we've had three balls over the fence in our league so far this year. All right. Overall, 2 out of 3 against the Angels in this series. Jose Ramirez, we were talking about it before the show. He had gone through a slump for much of April, and he, like Santana, but to a way different level, has been amazing. The OPS now up over 900 again. He's hitting 23 of 24. I don't know if he was, remember he missed those couple of games and he was dealing with some sort of injury, and maybe that factored in because, as you know better than anybody, that guy's plays through everything. I mean, it's amazing. You talk about a day and age of baseball where guys go on the IL like 82 times. I mean, Matt Vierling and Lane Thomas both came off the IL after missing most of the season, and both were back on for the Tigers and Guardians within a week. Jose, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know off the top of your head, I think he's only been on the IL once in his career. Am I crazy?
Yeah, well, he had that hamate surgery in 2019.
Right. I think that was the only time, wasn't it?
That's the only season in the last decade.
Yeah.
Where he's missed more than 10 games.
I mean, that's insane in this day and age.
And he's played through, I mean, he played through a pretty similar injury. He tore a ligament in his thumb in, what was it, 22?
Yeah.
And played through it.
Yeah.
And then had surgery after the year. So
if Jose, if you cloned like Jose Ramirez as a football player, he'd be the most celebrated player in like the history of Cleveland. But because he's a baseball player, it's not. I mean, fans love him and appreciate him, I think. But, and he's got to do a better job in the playoffs. He's struggled in the playoffs the last few years, but still, I mean, guy's been amazing.
He has.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for a season like this, and I don't know if he'll keep this up, but I always felt like with that contact ability, with the plate discipline, he could be a 300 hitter. He was in 2016 and 2017. His average 327 right now. That's the highest. He's never hit that high in a season. Mm-hmm. But it just, again, like no signs of slowing down. He's still on pace for a 30 homer season, on pace for like 35 to 40 doubles, on pace for 40 stolen bases, 20 walks and 25 strikeouts. Like this guy is, I mean, the Angels intentionally walked him twice in the first 3 innings on Saturday. And everybody on both sides said, of course we did. Because when we didn't walk him, he terrorized us. So just an incredible hitter who, like, we've seen him get on heaters before, but this is over a month now. And, you know, he doesn't get a hit Friday and then picks up Saturday with a great game. Sunday, another home run and a single. And Bolt, like, you know, we've been wondering, we've talked about the Hall of Fame case for him.
I'm gonna bring that
and given that he is not showing signs of slowing down, I think like I can confidently say like he's going to be a Hall of Famer as long as this continues and he doesn't just drive off a cliff.
Right.
The amazing thing to me, he's up to 266 home runs, 257 stolen bases. Probably next season, he's going to get to 300.
That's right.
There have been 8 players in Major League history with 300. That's it.
Can I guess him?
Sure.
All right. Ken Griffey Jr.
Nope.
He didn't get 300 steals. Okay. Alfonso Soriano.
Nope.
No, I'm off to a great start here. I shouldn't have said anything. Okay. Barry Bonds.
There's one.
Okay. I'm trying to think old timers before I come back again. Ricky Henderson.
Nope.
Oh, man, that's terrible. How many are pre 1950? Are there any?
Basically 0.
Okay. All right. No. Oh, God, what is wrong with me? All right, this is getting boring, so I'm gonna Sammy Sosa.
No.
Jeez, what the hell's wrong?
Ricky, by the way, 3 home runs short.
Oh, okay. 300 and 300. So we've got, I'm forgetting some obvious ones. Modern, right? 300 and 300. Andre Dawson.
There you go.
All right. The Hawk. So I've gotten 2 out of 8. I'm not doing great. Can't believe Ken Griffey Jr. How many steals did Ken Griffey Jr. have? Am I way off? Is he like? I think of him as
184.
Wow. All right. Yankees. Oh, A-Rod.
There you go.
That's 3. Red Sox. No. No. Shohei. No, he's not there yet.
No.
He will get there, but he's not there yet.
There's one guy on the cusp of the Hall of Fame.
All right. I'm not doing great, so go ahead. Give me the rest.
Have you heard of? Do you know Willie Mays?
Oh my God.
Jeez.
Mickey Mantle?
No. Carlos Beltran.
Oh my God. I would have never thought.
How about Barry Bonds' father, Bobby Bonds?
Oh my God.
And then the 2 random ones, Steve Finley and Reggie Sanders.
I would have never guessed those guys. I should have. The one I should have definitely gotten was Willie Mays. That was terrible.
But here's the thing. Yeah. So those are 8 guys who are 300, and we think
a lot of Hall of Famers.
No, but Jose should get there like next year, right?
Yeah.
He needs 34 home runs, 43 steals.
Yeah.
So if you figure he can get 300 by next year, I mean, he might be able to get to like 320 next year.
Yeah, he'll get 400, I would think. I definitely think he'll get the 400 home runs.
You think so?
You're not confident in that?
Maybe.
Let's say he averages. Where do you think he is at the end of this year?
30.
So
he'd be at like 285.
285. Okay, let's say he's 32.
Mm-hmm. He'll be 33 in September.
Let's say starting next year, he averages for 4 years, 24 home runs a season. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, I don't know what like a 36-year-old Jose Ramirez is going to be like.
I think he gets to 400.
I mean, he could be a 3. Couldn't you see him as like a 300 hitter with 15 home runs?
I could, but I don't think that happens for like another 3-4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's a borderline Hall of Fame candidate already, isn't he?
Not
quite.
I think he needs a couple more seasons.
Let me see.
Of decent play.
Baseball Reference, similar batters through age 31. For what it's
Eric
worth.
Chavez.
Eric Chavez is similar batters, just total number
Overall,
one.
yeah. Okay, so
Through
Scott
age
Rowland.
31, Scott Rowland, right.
Very different player, though.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer and was obviously a lot of that for his defense. And the rest of the guys, if you look at the rest, like Evan Longoria, Aramis Ramirez, David Wright, Sean Green, those guys are like all in the Hall of Very Good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are all really good players. I think David Wright, if he had stayed healthy, might have been a Hall of Famer.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Is there any doubt in your mind he'll get to 350, 350?
No doubt. Zero.
One player has done that. Barry Bonds.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. That is amazing. That it really is. He's probably never going to win an MVP. You know,
that's not his fault.
No,
He had Ohtani and then he's got Judge, and it's just
right. And he's finished in the top 6. I mean, I don't know how much
6 times.
More than anybody else, I believe, in baseball over the last 6-7 years. He's been consistently a top 10 player for for a while now. Now, is that enough to be a Hall of Famer? I think you're right. He's got to do it longer. If he plays anywhere close to this level for another 3-4 years, he'll get in. Somebody, Nick Fink, who used to work at the radio station with me, he's a lunatic, said he says some dumb shit when it comes to baseball, but he loves baseball and he's emotional, so I give him a break a little bit. But he goes, Jose should ask for a trade because he's never going to get into the Hall of Fame unless he wins a World Series. And I'm thinking, Nick, this is not football. The one thing I love there's many things I love about baseball, but when it comes to the Hall of Fame is, yes, obviously, if it's going to be held against you to some degree if you didn't have success in the postseason. But nobody goes in or at least maybe they did back in the day with like some of those Yankees players back in the day. But now, nobody gets in or out of the Hall of Fame because you won a World Series, because one player can't control that no matter how good he is.
Yeah, I struggled with this with Billy Wagner when I was filling out my ballot because his career playoff ERA was like over 10.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah.
I do think one solution to everything.
Yeah.
I think everyone's tired of the is Jose Ramirez underrated conversation. And then the Hall of Fame question.
Yeah.
One way to just solve all of that is to have that big postseason moment.
Yes.
Right? Like I thought last year was the perfect opportunity. Imagine if it was him instead of Jhonkensy Noel hitting that home run that we'll all remember forever. 100%. Right?
Right.
So, he'll have more opportunities at it. But I don't think that's pretty far down on the list of what you're looking for when you're voting on the Hall of Fame.
Isn't it funny that when you said the Jhonkensy Noel, I'm thinking of like some of the biggest home runs in modern Guardians history / Indians history: Jhonkensy, David Fry, Oscar Gonzalez, Rajay Davis. I mean, some random dudes.
I think that's some of the charm about baseball. I mean, I in some ways, like in football, the quarterback has the ball in his hands on every play, and it helps because then your stars they're in the spotlight the most. And I think that does hurt baseball a little bit, I think, in just building stars and marketing and stuff, because they're not always in that big moment. But then you remember these guys forever. And it's like Rajay Davis comes back to Cleveland all the time and he's hailed as a hero. And who would have thought that when they signed him for $5 million at the beginning of that season to be like a part-time outfielder?
Is that the greatest home run in the history of baseball in a losing game?
Oh, it has to be, right?
It has to be, right?
That's when you think of the context and the teams with the 2 longest World Series droughts, and it had that's
the probability again of him hitting a home run over Aroldis Chapman.
I've talked to him about like
he's the best.
Like, we should write a book about that. I mean, he'll talk about like everything that led up to that moment.
Yeah,
and it's like a movie script. It's insane.
I had a chance to interview him. I don't remember what it was. Sometime in the last couple of years, and he couldn't have been nicer. I mean, obviously you've interacted with him a lot more, but seems like the best guy.
Yeah, he's awesome, and I think so. That's also why if it's a Jose Ramirez who hits like a momentous, and remember the day before the Oscar Gonzalez one, they were losing 1-0 to the Rays, and I think Shane McClanahan and Jose hit a 2-run homer, and they won 2-1.
Right. He's had his moments, but lately it just hasn't been as good.
And it's just, you're waiting on because the guy has been so good for so long and is the undisputable face of the franchise. And it's just like the one thing missing on the resume of like that one moment everyone like, Kyrie hit the shot, and no matter what he does and what crazy things he says and where he goes, like that's always going to exist in Cleveland lore and will be the first thing people remember about Kyrie Irving. And I think with Jose, it's like we're waiting on that one moment to maybe just define him by, I guess.
By the way, Yankees fans are definitely saying the same thing about Aaron Judge. As great as he's been, that he hasn't been great in the postseason. All right, let's get to some fan comments here. Let's see. B. Skrill says, I'm not giving up on the Guardians. I think we've made it very clear you should not give up on the Guardians. Kevin says, took the kids to the game on Saturday. Gaddis signed balls for both of the kids. We got on the Jumbotron and had a great win. Everyone had a great time. That's awesome. That's always fun. It's really, the players, and maybe they do. I'm not paying, I'm not seeing this. I hope the players do a good, forget adults. If you're an adult standing there with a baseball, get out of my face. I'm not signing your autograph if I'm a player. But if I'm a player, I'm signing an autograph for every single kid that comes up to me. And I believe the players owe it to future generations to sign every autograph. I don't want to hear they're tired. I don't want to hear I got to go. They should sign an autograph for every kid. Adults, again, it's weird to be asking for an autograph when you're an adult. But every kid. I don't know how good the Guardians are with it. Zach, you can tell me. Maybe you don't even know. I don't know, but what do you think?
Well, they had their a season ticket holder event Saturday afternoon where like the fans fill the warning track and the players kind of go down the line and take selfies with every fan.
Okay.
Which is, I think, a cool event. And that's why I was so bummed. And I think a lot of people are bummed that they canceled Guards Fest.
Yeah,
tried to blame it on fan feedback when that's the best opportunity you have.
Yep.
I know I was looking forward to taking my kid who's at the time was like 2.5 and is impressionable. And like, if he meets Hunter Gaddis, he's going to think Hunter Gaddis is the coolest dude. Yeah. He's going to talk about that the rest of his childhood. So yeah, the more you can have those sorts of interactions, the better. And it's growing the game. And from like a business standpoint, if you're the Guardians, like you want that. Then you're going to have that kid begging his parents to go to games and spend money at the ballpark and buy jerseys and nothing. That's all necessary stuff.
My son got to meet and got an autograph from Kyle Schwarber when he was like 5 years old. And it was really cool. And he was really sweet with him. And I didn't ask him for an autograph. I didn't want his autograph. But he was nice. He was good with the kids. And you got to be good with the kids.
Your son and Joe Buck, Kyle Schwarber's two biggest fans.
Let's see. Caleb, absolutely. And we've been talking about how this is he's reacting to what we were talking about earlier in the show when we were talking about the money and the problems with baseball. Jake, being a Guardians fan, I think the regular season is very meaningful and fun. The playoffs are what they are, and we hope and pray that we'll get by a high payroll team, but no, it's not likely. I don't know. I don't even necessarily agree with that. You could, did the Guardians lose that series because of payroll? Well, obviously Juan Soto was making a lot of money and Giancarlo Stanton was making a lot of money, but and obviously they were overworked. What are you going to do? But if the Guardians bullpen had pitched in the playoffs like it did in the regular season, the Guardians may very well have won that series, whatever the payroll was. They just didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't sitting there. Every game felt, maybe except the first one, felt winnable.
100%.
And so I'm not sitting there in the 8th inning thinking like, man, if only they had spent $50 million more. It's a valid, when you can have Giancarlo Stanton play part-time because he's always injured, like that's a nice luxury to have. It goes back to margin for error.
Yeah.
But they're in these games and you just have to have more go right. You have to have guys step up.
$400 billion jet says, yeah, but to be fair, most big contracts backfire. Just look at Soto. Now, I don't think we should be writing off the Juan Soto contract after 2 months as if that's a bad contract. It might turn out to be, but unfair to judge it based on 2 months. He hasn't been awful. He's just been not great. Yes, I would say the majority of the massive contracts have failed, but certainly not all of them. And again, when we talk about the Guardians spending, and you mentioned this earlier, we're not asking. We know they're not going to play with Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto. We're not asking them to give $500-600 million contracts, but we're saying, hey, instead of 2 $7 million contracts, can you do 3 $25 million contracts, or two $30 million contracts and a $10 million? Can you get the payroll to 150, which is where you were in that neck of the woods, 16, 17?
Yeah, because
about how much better this team would be if you had another $50 million to spend.
Yeah,
potentially,
instead of Seawald and Junis and
right.
Yeah.
Ryan says, is next year a pivotal point for the Guardians to win a World Series? Bieber will be on the last year if he doesn't opt out. Quan nearing contract year. Jose, Clase, Smith. How long for the window? First of all, if Bieber comes back, and at this point, I would think he'll be back before the All-Star break. Is that fair?
So his rehab assignment can only last 30 days.
Right. So,
and it started Saturday. So
yeah,
the 30-day window closes on June 30th. So I think basically he'll be back sometime between June 25th and July 5th.
Yeah. Especially if he pitched great in his first start. Did you get to see it, like video of it or anything?
A little bit.
Yeah.
He looked like Bieber.
Yeah. Right. Got this, and now he's pitching against Double-A, so obviously much improved from what he was facing in the first start.
Yeah, it looked sharp.
Yeah.
Apparently the velo is like 92, 94. Changeup is new and improved. And we've never seen him pitch poorly. Like
no, not really.
He always looks in control and sharp, and I'd expect nothing less even after this.
If he pitches great for 2 months, he's opting out. Right? There's no way he's not opting out.
I don't see a way he'd opt in, honestly, unless he gets like re-injured
again.
Yeah.
Which, that wouldn't be good, obviously. Jay Skrills, Jose really wants to win a World Series right here in Cleveland. Of course he does. Typical gamer. I love baseball so much in the Guardians, but baseball is such a major problem. The payroll disparity is ruining the sport. Let's see. Typical gamer says, Kafis and Manzardo are the future at first base next year. Yeah, I don't know that it's, Kafis is good. As much as I like Kafis, and he's been great in the minors, he's not a sure thing. He's not a top prospect. Not that even those guys are a sure thing. But, I could definitely see a scenario where Kafis and Manzardo are, playing first base and DH between them, with Kafis playing a little in right field next year, maybe.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. Evan 419 says, I have an epic random jersey sighting last week, and Zach was off Twitter. Well, you can't send that message and then tell us what it you got to tell us what it was. Why were you off Twitter? Was there something about that? What was happening?
I lost my access. They logged me out and I couldn't log back in, and it took like a week and a half to regain access. So I got to go back. So there were a bunch of random jerseys that I saw Tim Drew, September 11th, 2001 patch jersey.
That's amazing.
That'll probably wind up in the.
Do this. You are like widely known for this now, and it's great because dorky baseball fans like us, like the diehards that are watching this show. Like if you're watching this show, you're most likely a diehard baseball fan, and like you'll have. I know I would have conversations with my friends, especially when I was younger. And we'd go back and forth just naming random baseball players. Like, that's so weird.
An Estevan Florial City Connect jersey.
Oh my God. How long was he here?
I don't even know if he was still on the team when they unveiled those.
Yeah, I know.
Must have been a really big fan of Florial.
What makes people buy these? I guess they're cheap, right? They must be cheap. And they want you to see them and tweet it. That's what it's all about. Oh, let's bring up. This is something I didn't bring up. Luke says, hated to see that Andrew Walters injury. That looked awful.
Yeah, significant tear of the lat. So they didn't put a timetable on it. I think they're weighing like does he have to have surgery? Can rest and recover, fix it? I'm not a doctor, but it seems like it would take a really long time to come back from that.
Oh, man. Evan419 says the guy he was at the random jersey he saw was Christian Arroyo.
Yeah.
1 game, 0 plate appearances in 2020. I don't even remember that.
Yeah, I think we've had that sighting before. There was him and there was another one that day too. Oh, Kaz Tadano.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's great randomness right there. Kevin said, Kevin was the one whose son got the autograph from Gaddis. He said, Junis only signed a few, but Gaddis hung around for at least 15, 20 minutes and made sure every kid that wanted an autograph got one. My son couldn't stop talking about it all weekend. This is, and maybe players don't care about it. Certainly Hunter Gaddis does. This is important. You need to make that impression. And that's why, as you said, there's a terrible job by the Guardians to cancel Guard Fest, because like spring training to some degree, that's when players have their guard down more, especially with non-media members. And as opposed to like once the season starts, it's a different mindset from these guys. So anyway, we've gone almost an hour, so I think we're going to wrap it up. Thanks to everybody for joining us as always. We'll talk to you next week. Where else but right here on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show.